down, so I don't think anyone wants to know about your washing machine experience.
No, I've got something else to say.
Have you? Oh,
I'm
well,
sure that everyone else has seen
yeah,
as
go on,
well.
tell us, and you do the news now. Go on.
Well, my husband likes Bettany Hughes. So Saturday night we
I know you do.
watched Bettany Hughes and the Nabateans, which I suppose, I felt it was like ringing the bells, and thinking, well, it is sort of around the time of the Etruscans as well. That those groups of
Those civilizations,
yeah,
obviously,
those
yeah,
civilizations were all kind of doing their stuff, and yeah, it was interesting. They were nomads,
good, good. Yes, they started off as nomads. Yes,
and mainly camels. They rode on camels, and there wasn't much archaeology really because they didn't want you know buildings or anything because they were nomads. But I do think that it was,
hang on. You're talking about the Nabateans and Petra and all the rest of it.
yeah. I
Well,
mean, they had, yeah, they did that. They did that. There was archaeology, yeah, of course.
exactly.
Um,
And anyway, we're going to crack on.
yeah.
Um, right. Anything from you, Henry?
No, nothing this week. Got a very quiet week.
Okay, fair enough.
That
Fair
was
enough.
very good, mind, on Saturday night if you want to BBC iPlay it.
Or you could, yeah, that's true. That's true. Or you could see Will Smith at the Millennium Stadium. Right, Richard.
Nothing from me. Nothing of interest anyway.
Yeah. Right, Goff. Anything you want to tell us?
Well, I'm afraid I haven't got anything new. I haven't picked up anything on the news. Well, I'm terribly sorry.
Okay. Well, I was yesterday, right? Because of a few requests, we decided. Well, I decided that I was going to be doing something slightly different. And there's a quote in this book that completely agrees with everything that I've been saying for the past 15 years, and is done in such a way that I couldn't have even done any better. And it's talking about the not so end of Roman rule in Britain. So
Yeah.
we're going to be looking at that. But interestingly enough, the date of this commentary in this book wasn't made in 2025. It was made in 1976. The same time that the Roman villa at Witton on the 5 Mile Lane was scheduled as an ancient monument. It would be protected forever and it wouldn't be damaged from any development. Things change. I wanted to mention, for those that have already paid their fees this month, thank you very much. Those that need still to pay their fees this month, please get a jiffy on, and it's the usual £50. And I thought I'd just give you a reminder. And Pat Hand passes on a love. She joined us last night actually, but because she's got some kind of a meal or something tonight, so she couldn't join us. So I've got a few interesting things to do tonight, and it's a bit different. We do look a little bit about Trajan's column. We do look at what is the meaning of what I've been talking about, and we look at some images from Pompeii.
Right.
But there is something else that I want to look at that I didn't do last night. So without further ado, let's get onto the images. Screen share, start broadcasting, and there we go. There. So yes, we will be looking at Trajan's column, and we've got a few places to visit tonight. but I'd like to start off with this. It's surprising what you come across on the internet, and I know I covered this in regards to my series on YouTube with the Roman stone remains in Britain. And the image that we're just going to look at, I just found this on Facebook, but I'd actually covered this myself, but I didn't realize that it was being badly damaged and eroded away. Barely visible after 2,000 years of erosion and vandalism. There's a shrine in Chester to the goddess Minerva. And there it is.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, but it's basically out in the public.
Did you come to Chester?
Oh, did you actually see that?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
No, I wasn't. Did we have a trip to Chester?
Yeah, I had a trip to Chester. It was with Jess, though.
I don't think we did. We do. I didn't know I didn't even know we did Chester. Anyway, so this is that sort of little sort of shrine there, and it's carved out of rock, and it's quite surprising the things that you can actually find around. And this is being added later. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a park there where they've got quite a few things.
Yes, there are, but this is really badly eroded. And I just thought that'd be something different and something interesting to sort of mention tonight. So what we are going to do is we did actually go straight into what this was in the book last night, so we may as well do it now. I thought it was a bit later. Now, one of the things that is really established when we went to school was this date, 410 AD 410. And I've just realized I've missed out a whole bit of what I was supposed to be doing tonight. But we'll start off with this anyway. Now, in 410 and later on in the 460s, Roman historians refer to the groans of the Britons. The Britons were under attack. They needed the Roman military, and the Roman military didn't turn up in 410 when they needed them. And that was the last time that Rome was ever going to assist the Britons. But I've said that that's not exactly fact. I've always argued that that's actually something that I've not really gone with. And the idea of Rome collapsing in 410 is a big misnomer. And why is it a big misnomer? Because what we do find is archaeological evidence along Hadrian's Wall are a number of key sites, including Bird Oswald, which we've been to. And we see in Carlisle evidence of the fountains still offering water, still maintained in the 500s. So we're starting to think about, this military thing still going on. The other things that we're finding in Britain, in Chedworth, for example, in the 420s, we've got a Roman administrator or somebody highly influenced by Roman era world building a brand new mosaic. So if that's the case, the Roman military, did they actually leave in 410? Did this suddenly stop being a Roman province? Now, this is something that is one of those big things that we were told at school. We were told at school, for example, in 410, AD 410, there was a message from Emperor Honorius that said to the British people that they should look to their own defences, because the people in Britain had groaned to the Roman Emperor Honorius and asked if he would send troops because they were under attack. Now, it's not the only time that apparently the Britons moaned to the Romans. There was this in the 440s, the groans of the Britons, in a final appeal made to the Roman administration all the way in Rome and Ravenna by the Britons to the Roman military for assistance against the Picts and Scot raiders. But this was actually written down in the mid-500s in Gildas, in his work about the conquest of Britain. And it's written down also by Bede. One of the things that we really struggle with in regards to Roman Britain is the end. And in a way, we struggle to work out the beginning. We haven't done the beginning of Roman era Britain, but the end is the same as the beginning. We're not sure when the end was. And even if we've got dates, we've got to be very suspicious about what those dates tell us. One of the things that we do when we look at the beginning of Roman era Britain is we question what the narrative is and who's telling the truth. And when we got historians like Julius Caesar in 56, 55, and 54 BC, and he's a commander and he's also a statesman, polymath, this guy is writing the history. And in many ways, there's little evidence for Julius Caesar's invasions of Britain. There's more evidence for Caligula's invasions of Britain, but it's said that he never really invaded Britain at all. And when we look at AD 43, it's the same thing with Claudius. We might get in the histories that Claudius came over here and lots of things happened, but to find the archaeological evidence on the ground is very difficult. So when we look at this sort of play of history, essentially, when we look at what historians tell us, can this date of AD 410 really be believed? Essentially ending Roman rule in Britain, leaving the island to its own fate and leading to a period of fragmentation and the eventual rise of Germanic settlers to Britain. But lots of historians, Beard, even Roberts, and even some of the more notable male archaeologists are saying, hey, was this the end of the Roman world in 410? And the answer is no. Is this in fact factual? That the Roman army had largely withdrawn from Britain? Communities of Britain, the one fact here is the communities of Britain still viewed themselves as part of the Roman Empire. Did they actually send a desperate plea to Honorius? Or did that plea come from somewhere else in the Roman Empire? And the Roman historians have actually misinterpreted where that plea actually came from. So this thing about Honorius responding by telling the British authorities to organise their own defences effectively kept in Britain adrift. It was a rescript of Honorius and marked the official end of Roman influence in Britain. So how does that explain the Roman garrison still operating in Britain? What's going on? This itself is maybe the answer. And the one thing that we are going to then go on to is some images that Henry had actually sent me, which we haven't actually looked at yet. So this is another interpretation of actually what did happen in AD 410. The message of Honorius in AD 410 was likely a letter sent to the cities of Britain urging them to organise their own defences, as the Roman Empire was in no position to offer aid. While the traditional interpretation says it marked the end of Roman rule in Britain, as we were told at school, a small chance exists that the letter was instead directed to the Bruttians in southern Italy during the Gothic invasions that would actually at the same time sacked Rome. So you can imagine that a letter's going to Honorius at Ravenna in northern Italy, and he's sitting on his desk and he's responding, work out your own defences. But it wasn't the Britons of Great Britain, it was the Bruttians of southern Italy. So in other words, when we think about the end of Roman Britain formally in AD 410, it's no such thing. This alternative theory of misinterpretation, some historians suggest that the Roman historian Zosimos, who's writing over 100+ years later, who is the source of this account, may have misidentified the recipient of the letter. And that's really, really important, because if it's a completely false assumption, which I do believe it is, Roman era administration ended when Rome ended in the West, when Rome finally fell in AD 476. A town thus in Italy. An alternate view is that the rescript, a formal written statement, was sent to communities in southern Italy called Bruttium, a region in Italy during the Goth and Visigoth campaigns led by Alaric. It says, well, against Alaric, that's wrong. Alaric led these Gothic people. So if we go to this map and if I explain what the hell this is about. So this book that I showed you at the beginning is rather interesting. I was flicking through these books. And one of the things that really fascinates me is the end of Roman era Britain. It fascinates me so much that I went to the University of Highlands and Islands, and I tried to convince them I wanted to do a PhD looking at Roman pottery and Roman artifacts found in Orkney and Shetland, and they convinced me not to. I wish I had done now. But this is a little bit of a quote from this book, Coined of Roman Britain. But if we look at this chart, there are many things wrong when you look at charts like this. There was a notation that this is rather interesting, is 383. That's the time of a chap by the name of Magnus Maximus. So if there are raids by people from Ireland and people from Scotland in 383, why is this guy Magnus Maximus withdrawing all the military from Britain and then simply going over the continent and to proclaim himself the next Roman emperor? One of the things that really gets me is when historians, and what we were taught at school, is that people attack Britain all at the same time. So the Scots from Ireland and the Picts from Scotland and the Germanic tribes from over Denmark and so on all sat down and said, oh, we'll all attack at 4 p.m. or in the year 383 AD. Or they may have decided another date in the 420s and so on. This is completely false, because a group of people coming over Hadrian's Wall or the Antonine War further up in Scotland would have had no idea what was going on elsewhere in Britain. So there was no great sort of thing going on. It was just things would be unfolding. But where's the evidence for all these arrows? And they're very much faint and few on the ground to actually find out what's truly going on. But this historian, a chap by the name of David Miller, he's writing a book, Coins of Roman Britain, again from 1976. He writes as follows. After the great victory of the Romans, one of the high-ranking officers, Magnus Maximus, had remained to see to the problems in Britain before 383. He continued to campaign against the barbarians and probably finished up as a military commander-in-chief of the province and becoming governor. In 383, Magnus Maximus was proclaimed emperor. Now, the name Magnus Maximus is a really interesting name. And why is it interesting? Because many people think that the name Magnus Maximus is synonymous with another figure in history. And those that may have followed my videos online will know that some people have identified Magnus Maximus as actually King Arthur. Now, whether there's anything in that is a very difficult thing for me to look at today, and I'm not going to. But Magnus Maximus gathered around him those troops and armies so that he could march on Rome and become the next Roman emperor. Magnus Maximus issued coins in gold and silver with the name AVG on them, which could mean Augusta or could mean the other name for London, which the Romans named Augusta as London. These were solid gold coins, solidi and siliques. And it was quite interesting that coins in gold and silver were actually being issued at that stage in Britain in the 380s, when most of the gold had been used up in one way or another. Magnus Maximus, with his son Flavius, withdrew the troops from Britain and headed towards Gaul, to only be defeated by the Roman emperor of the time. His rival was left to try and recover the province once again from the barbarians, who had swept in on the news that Magnus Maximus had withdrawn his forces to Gaul. But, you know, there was no Mirror newspaper or Sun newspaper telling them that Magnus Maximus had withdrawn. However, for 20 years, Rome held Britain. But in 410, the British troops raised another emperor, Constantine III, that they wished to become the next Roman emperor. Once again, the pattern unfolded. The Roman troops left with their nominee to try their luck in Gaul against the emperor. With their departure, the barbarians rushed in and the province was destroyed. In Gaul, the British troops were defeated, heading to defeat the Roman emperor. In Gaul, the British troops, said again, and the central government once again tried to reconquer Britain after 410. So they sent another Roman legion and a Roman army over in 410, right? They didn't abandon Britain. That's the point. You know, if you're sending letters, and then so the Emperor Honorius is sending letters back saying you can't have an army, but you then send an army over, then Britain's still part of the Roman Empire. The government was too weak and under attack across the Rhine from the Goths. Some attempt was made to control the southern half of the province. All that stuff there that says Romana Britain. But gradually Britain declined economically and politically. The barbarians moved in, first as hired mercenaries and then as occupiers. The coinage declined to small pieces of scrap metal known as minims. Some so small that 50 could be placed on a 2-pence piece. And usually these minims are bronze. They're hardly any. They've got no value at all. You know, like the old half-pence pieces that we used to have. You know, by 1982, they were worthless. These could only have led to barter. Later, Roman coins continued to be occasionally used, and so on, influencing coins that would be made after that. So the reason I wanted to do that was to sort of try to make your minds think that just because we've got dates, it doesn't mean to say that these dates have got any accuracy associated with them.
No.
So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to, I'm hopefully he's okay with this, but it's going to bugger things up if he's not. I got some images that Henry sent me to look at and use, and I want to show them to you of Pompeii and his visit to Rome as well. So we're gonna swap over, and hopefully, right? Let's just there we go. Oh, there it is. And what we're gonna do? We've got. Hang on, where is it? There. 1 sec. I'm just gonna make sure. There. Doop doop doop. Oh, I did it a different way last night. Ah, there. Hang on. And what have we got? There. Yeah. Oh, look at all that. Right. So I remember, hang on, if I can just try. Ah, right. Hang on. This is more like it. There. Right. So these are all thanks to Henry, and I just thought that I was saying to them last night that these are taken this year, and if I'm wrong, Henry, then you need to let me know now.
No, you're okay with that.
Good. So I thought I said a few things last night about these images, and yes, very impressed. But I think the point that I made was to try and say that there's two things about Pompeii that I'm always critical of. The one thing is that they don't do enough preservation. The next thing is that they should stop archaeological excavation at Pompeii. Now, I said these two things last night, but then I said I can be wrong in some of these assumptions. And what I mean by that is what I'll show you coming up now. Now, last night we were looking at some of these plaster casts of the human remains that we find at Pompeii, and it got quite sort of emotive last night. So I might actually do the same thing. And the way I did that, I looked on Google, and we put in plaster cast, and we sort of looked at that, and we thought, you know, what do you feel about this, and so on and so on. But the way these plaster casts are formed is that an Italian archaeologist, Giuseppe Filorillo, I think that's right. Giuseppe in the 1860s, 1870s, come up with this novel technique that if suddenly you're excavating and there's a void directly underneath, you're excavating and a trowel goes through, it's very likely that that air pocket is actually the remains of a human being or animal. And basically the process is as the dust and the tooth and the pumice and all the rest of it building up on top of you, right, which is hundreds of degrees hotter than the surroundings. Basically it cooks you, and it would basically it would create a cast around your body and your leather boots and your clothing, right? And that would be a mold, which would be basically a sort of an area of air, right? So when you found that, the mold, you pour in the plaster to create a cast. And this is a sort of the result, right? Now you can clearly see that there's boots there, and you can clearly see that this person's got clothing. You can see that there's strapping there on the arm, and most of these you can actually see the skull. So there's 2 points to this. Is that in these voids there is bone. And in these voids, there are jewelry. In these voids, there are rings. In these voids, there is all these wonderful things that these people were wearing and felt part of them as they're trying to escape the disaster that's occurring, not just at Pompeii, Heracleum, Stabae, and Oplontis. Most of the ones at Heracleum weren't even charred remains, because the lava just flowed in and everything went up in flames, everything melted. One of the points with this is that when we were talking about this last night, they've actually started pouring in a perspex mix, right? Which obviously takes a isn't directly molten perspex, but it's something similar, right? And the problem is when you're putting something translucent in, you see the bones and all the artifacts, but it doesn't give the people dignity. And one of the things with a figure like this, it gives the individual some dignity. I don't know if Goff was listening the other day, but there was this fascinating story on the radio about this guy in York. We'll change the image in a minute. Get a bit different there. This guy in York, this is still Pompeii. This guy in York, he's working in a cellar in this grand house, which is an archive in York in the 1950s. And as he's working, he's doing the electrics. He's sent in this basement, and there's a little bit of a breeze. And he's looking over and he's trying to sort everything out. And then suddenly he thinks he sees this figure. And he's like looking in this basement area. And then he's thinking, that looks like a Roman soldier. And he was doing his electrics. And the next thing he sees this other figure wandering across, minding their own business, right? With long leather boots on. And they're looking a bit disheveled. And it's like a Roman soldier, but not the typical Roman soldier that you'd usually see, an oblong shield with a spear. And he's thinking, well, I must be on something. Anyway, he continues working. And the next thing, there's this other individual, and it's leading a horse. And he's thinking, this is really interesting. And the next thing, there's a parade of 20 Roman soldiers that wander across in front of him. Mm. And there's some relevance in this, which links to sort of Pompeii. Anyway, he sees this and he panics then, and these Roman auxiliaries have got green sort of tunics on, and not sort of the usual red, right? So he runs out the basement and he bumps into the curator of this archive, and the curator says, "You've seen them then?" Anyway, long story short, he does this interview in front of these archaeologists, and in the 1950s still, you know, the age of Glyn Daniels and Sir Mortimer Wheeler and Dr. Piggott, you know, all these figures from archaeology. And he describes this, and they all say, you're wrong, because Roman soldiers wouldn't have worn green, you know, they wouldn't have worn these long leather boots, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they didn't believe him. Anyway, years later, they started working at Vindolanda, and they really discovered that Roman soldiers had long leather boots, and lots of auxiliaries were disheveled, and they would have had beards in part of his description. And these are all things that you wouldn't have known in the 1950s. And then they discovered that where he saw the individuals, it was where he saw these individuals in the basement. That's where they suddenly realized there was a road. And the point, as we mentioned in this, is that sometimes people can tell you things, even from ghost stories, that can be then proven later on to be fact. So anyway, I've just had a message off Henry saying this is the other side, but I presume this is still Pompeii, Henry. But this is rather interesting. This mosaic. And the reason I was mentioning Roman Britain then, because although this is in Pompeii, and you've got the beautiful frieze around the outside, you know, this, you know, the beautiful sort of frescoes around the outside. This is really interesting. And the reason why this is really interesting is because we have excavated mosaics like this in Britain, but they're associated with early Roman villa constructions. This is known as a monochrome mosaic. It's basically two colors, white and black. So if this was polished up, it would look really, really nice. Yeah. But this was sealed in the ground on the 24th of August in the year AD 79. never to see the light again, because this is what the colours of the mosaics were in some of the houses. They were just monochrome. They weren't the beautiful colours that we might see with the Chedworth Roman mosaic that was constructed in the AD 420s. So we get these types of mosaics at places that were established quite early on in Roman era administration in the AD 50s, the AD 60s, the AD 70s, that type of period, in regards to the Roman palace at Fishbourne, which is at Chichester. So we get an idea of the evolution of mosaics and the style. But like many locations, when we're talking about mosaics and style, we would say that this is typically a mosaic design from Pompeii, whereas our designs, in the way we do the galoche around the outside, look completely different.
Oh.
Now, this is rather interesting. I like this little image. This is I like all these little images. And the one good thing about having people on the ground showing you these things is that they give you a snapshot into images that you're not really going to come across in a book, and they're things that are usually fresh. Now, this reminds me, for example, of something that would be very familiar in Roman era Britain. I don't know if you were. Well, this was quite some year. This was about 15 years ago. There was something in one of the local newspapers, the Western Mail or Echo, and it said a Roman McDonald's has been found in Killeen. And what they were probably describing is something like this, where you would have a counter, and you would have in the counter, you'd have sort of barrels or cisterns or containers set within the worktop. So, and then there's another point to be made here, but obviously the people serving on the left-hand side and the customers are on the right-hand side, because that's where the street is. So you'd be going up, and there's loads of these in Pompeii, and you'd be going up, and obviously you might have sort of some of the horrible fish paste, the sogrum, and you might be served that with some bread, or there might be oil, or there might be some sort of meads, or there might be some wines, or in here there might be some fish delicacies. There might be some mollusks, all sorts of different things. So this is what we typically might see, and this is really interesting. This is not unfamiliar. This is really familiar, and this sort of idea of having, your home would be at the back and your business would be at the sort of front along the street, is something that we see emboldened and embodied in the fabric of medieval Britain, where when you come across people talking about, oh, by the way, Lantwick Major used to have 40 pubs at one stage. We didn't really technically have 40 pubs. There were a lot of people along the main high street that would have their frontage, and they would open it as a sort of a mini tavern. And this is like a typical sort of continental thing, right? Which has probably survived from the Roman era. Because if any of you will have been to Cyprus in, like, when I was very lucky to go there in the early 1980s, you would go along and you would be invited into somebody's house, because they would have a little counter, and you could sit down and have a cup of coffee, or you could have a meal with them. So that's a typical sort of continental thing to do.
Wow.
Well, it was actually at the same time that me and my dad used to wander around, and we used to find unexploded bombs, because this was in 1982. The war had only been over a few years, and we went up on the top of we went up on a spire, a minaret, and we looked down at a roof, and it was a Kalashnikov rifle still on the roof. I kid you not. And my dad's a bit like me, because when we went to Nicosia, there was it was divided in two. And my dad went up to have a word with one of the Turkish soldiers, and they nearly shot him.
Oh.
So Anyway, the point is the point I'm trying to make is that this sort of I'm looking for little influences, something that you might not hear an archaeologist say, because this sort of open front thing that you're serving sort of these things from your house is sort of a typical continental thing. It's not the type of thing that you might see from an Iron Age village, put it that way.
Can I add something to
I would love you to
construction?
add something. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, if you look at the image, I've got a second one which I didn't send you, but if you go to the bottom of that image and basically turn left, it's like a reverse L. It's got about 5 or 6 of those serving wells.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And so it bounces off to the back wall of the actual building.
Yes. So there's a lot of these, aren't there?
Yes, yes.
And this is one of those typical hustle and bustle things with the likes of Pompeii, but it's a typical continental thing. And again, that point that this would be a type of influence that we'd see coming into the background of Roman era Britain, and then this would then probably die out in the Anglo-Saxon period, but then would have a resurgence in the medieval period. That might be a little bit to do with French people coming over and stuff, but it's a sort of typical Roman thing. Yeah,
markets.
Well, not so much a market thing, more so much that a market you would like sort of have an open space and you'd have all sort of stall holders. That's not what I'm looking at. I'm talking about you've got your house and you've got your frontage onto the lane.
Yeah,
and then
the weather's got a lot to do with that. The weather, because they can do things like that on the continent.
Yeah, but we did them here as well. The archaeological evidence from Venta Silurum, we've got that there. We got the main frontage through Venta Silurum from east to west, and you've got these sort of shop fronts, which I know they're shop fronts, but they're sort of that people's accommodation behind, and you see that sort of dominating when you look at the likes of Cowbridge and you look at the 1250s, 1260s, you can probably say that there was about 40 odd sort of taverns along the front, and this is like a typical type of thing that would come from this sort of ilk of influence from the continent.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on.
This would be repeated all the way up that street.
Yes.
And then intermittently you'd have laundries as well. So they'd actually be on the street as well.
Because people needed to pee. So you'd have some wine and then you'd just have a tiddle in.
No, these are the ones where you clean your clothes.
Yes, exactly. Now, this is exactly the scene. So I know that's a marble water fountain there, but you'd have these little barrels outside people's houses. And and you obviously correct me if I'm wrong with any of this, but this type of image is legendary, right? And you've actually captured it quite well, Henry. You could have bought this as a postcard, to be honest with you. But this is quite typical. I can remember when I was in school and I used to come home, there used to be a program that used to look at these types of things, and I was quite a sad child because I would make sure that my mum was out and I'd come home at dinner time and I would stay, and there would be programs on Roman era Britain and stuff and Pompeii, and the Pompeii stuff would have images like this, and they would sort of have a reconstruction, and there would be sort of the taverns and the open sort of houses at the front, and there would be little water fountains, and there would be people. You wouldn't actually have people showing them people peeing, but obviously there'd be sort of the laundries. This is a really interesting image. There's a crossroads in the middle of the image.
There's 2 of them.
Yes, and what you've got here, you've got the stepping stones. Now, I don't know what you were told, Henry, but I'm gonna do my bit. There's several really interesting things about this image. There's and obviously if you want to add, Henry, you can, but there's several really interesting things about this image. The one thing this this destroys the myth of Roman era roads in Britain. We don't have really anything like this in Roman era Britain, right? We've got them all over the continent, all the way from Israel, all into Egypt, Alexandria. You've got Alexandria to Carthage. Then you've got sort of into Algiers, and then you go back over. You've got sort of Greece. You've got Turkey, Antioch, Ephesus. You've got all these different places that have streets like this, but you don't have this type of thing in Britain. So when archaeologists say, "Oh, we've found a Roman road in Britain," and you get really excited, and all you usually see 99% of the time is a layer of dirt and a layer of a few broken tiles, and that's your Roman road. We really don't see this type of thing in Roman era Britain. And the reason why that is quite simple. Nothing to do with the weather, folks. It's not to do with the weather. It's to do with the fact that Pompeii, this is not Pompeii in AD 79. This could have been Pompeii in AD 12. This could have been Pompeii in 50 BC. Pompeii's been there for a long time, right? And the wear on the wear there is not just a few decades. That's a bit of time that's actually taken to happen. And the point is
cart tracks they are.
Yeah, exactly. And they are cart tracks. And there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. So we don't have this in Britain because we didn't develop Britain. We didn't start developing our towns properly in Roman era Britain until about sort of AD 60, AD 70, AD 90, at which point Pompeii was already gone. Rome had already been standing there for 700 years. Do you know what I mean? And all these different things. So, you know, you got Nîmes in sort of, you got Marseille, you know, these places have been going for a few hundred years, you know. So the point is these stepping stones. Now, the reason why the stepping stones are there is not because, well, do we have stepping stones across our modern high streets today? No, right? So why are they there? You don't need stepping stones. You do because one of the things that we now know is that street was full of shit, right? My French, it was full of crap. It was Pompeii wasn't a really hygienic place. I don't know what you were told, Henry, but it was not a really hygienic place. The reason
there were drains along the sides.
Yeah.
So where the pavement area is, the curbing,
Yeah.
you'd have intermittent drains, but yes,
Yes.
it would be basically a pretty dirty, smelly. Everything was thrown into that road.
It was bogging. And so the point is, Henry, this is where we go. I'm glad that everybody agrees on that, but you didn't see that in that stuff in the 1980s when I was watching on television. I don't think they wanted to show you. And there's a point with that, is because when this was excavated, when this was originally revealed, we're talking about the 1750s, 1760s, and the 1700s. So they weren't really interested in finding evidence of all that minuscule, mind my French, let's say it is crap. They wanted to clean that up, right? So all that evidence is gone. Now, that PhD student, the reason why this is so intriguing, because the evidence is there. When you've got a PhD student turning around and saying, actually, Roman cities, Roman towns, Roman places to live were not more hygienic than an Iron Age town, right? In fact, they were less so. So what we were always taught is that the Romans were clean people. We were always told that they had aqueducts. We were always told that they had a sewage system. We were always told these things, right? But nobody didn't tell us this. When Basil, Dr. Snow were looking at the cholera outbreaks in London in the 1850s, there were sewers in London. Yes, there were, but they weren't very effective. There were water closets. There were all these different things to deal with stuff in London, right? There were systems. There were water systems, right? But people were dying of cholera. So just because you feel that London is an advanced city in the 1850s, and then they cleared up their act and they put more systems in, but nevertheless, people are still dying, right? So just because you've got all these systems working, it doesn't mean to say that you're a hygienic clean, safe place to live, because it's not. People died the same as they would. Well, no, they wouldn't. This is completely nonsense, because with an Iron Age site, people probably live better lives than people in Pompeii. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it as it is. They live more cleanlier lives than people in Pompeii. Because I tell you what, you're wandering along here in when it's rain, and also this is one thing. I don't know if you saw the damage when you were there, but there are occasional floods that hit Pompeii, and it brings all the crap and all the stuff flowing through the streets. Right, that actually still happens. So you can imagine all of these things have always happened in the past, and the point is, this image sort of says it all, right? This was not a very cleanly place. So, anything else you want to add to that, Henry, before we go to the next image?
No, it was just blooming hot there.
Yeah, it looks hot, and you could stand in that little shadow there on the right. So obviously, I interpreted this last night as somebody sort of, this is a modern thing, isn't it? Somebody sort of putting something nice on the pavement with all the bits and pieces. Yeah.
That's from a house.
Hang on, that is actually a Roman house.
Yep.
Right. Okay. You can correct me, right? I said that this was modern last night.
No, that's original.
Yeah, but it looks so new.
It's original.
Oh my God. I don't mind being completely wrong. That's great. But that's something that somebody could have today, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
That looks so. I'm pleased I'm wrong, but I'm shocked that I'm wrong, because that just doesn't. Wow. Okay. Fair enough.
That's
So I'm presuming from that, my interpretation would be that they made this up from broken bits of material lying around, but they did that in the past then. So before AD 79, they did that. They created this broken up sort of fiddly sticks type thing. So that's original then. That's amazing. That is good. And those white dove. Oh, cool. I like that. Thank you for tripping me up on that one, but I'm really pleased that you did. So I like that, because it sort of it comes alive, and it sort of tells us another bit of texture of this ancient Roman world. Cool, like it. Now we've got these, and we got this, 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 we got this. We're going to do all that, but we're going to do that then. That smacks me across the face, and I will tell you why that smacks me across the face. We'll do that in a bit of detail in a short while. But that really smacks. I got really excited by this image. And in fact, if you hadn't done any of the other images there, Henry, I wouldn't care, because this stands out. I do care you got the other images. But the point with this proves me wrong about no more archaeological excavation. And this proves me wrong that they're not restoring and doing a good job there. So let's just let's prove me wrong. But
and they're wearing hard hats.
Yeah, they're restoring that building.
I'm loving it. I don't say any more, because we're going to do that in a minute. We'll have a discussion with that. We'll have a discussion. But this is one of those arches again. This is again the epitome of everything, because there's nothing really like this in Britain. We there's signs that we did create sort of these little sort of arches, which would have been stuccoed on the outside, would have been whitewashed and painted, and all that stuff going on, right? But these things survive. Now, remember one of the points that I made, was it last week? Well, the week before, about Pompeii, that this is 20 foot, right? This is 20 foot. And I remember, from that article, archaeologists now saying that people didn't just abandon Pompeii, they went back. But they lived in the top parts of the buildings that were sticking out. So you're thinking, okay, in some areas there's 20 foot of deposits, right? So some of the roof lines are still there. And remember, but I think the point that we made is that lots of survivors from Pompeii went to other places and had little keepsakes that they may have taken with them, or sort of so on. And the word have, H-A-V-E, is a Pompey word which means welcome and goodbye, ciao, typical Italian way of doing things. Now, I thought, Henry, right, that does look like a postcard, but it's a real photograph, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It
Yeah.
does look like a postcard. I was getting the definition. I said, that looks like a postcard. But it's not. I know that's a photograph. It's unbelievable. And it's almost as if it's unreal. That's the Pantheon in Rome. And that itself, the Temple of Agrippina, and this is built by Agrippina, and base of four. And what you've got here, the Pantheon itself is very much Etruscan, because if you look, you've got these flat columns, even though you got canthus leaf capitals on the top. But there's something very not Roman about this. But this itself is so amazing, and again, we're only just scratching the surface of the Roman world. But sometimes when you get little images like this, they're just complete gems, and it's almost as if, in a way, I feel this. In a way, when you look at Rome and the archaeology, it's lost. You've got to find it. I know it's everywhere, but you've got to find it. There's other little miniature colosseums. There's bits of wall. There's this. There's that. But whatever. But there's so much medieval stuff. There's so much loads of Renaissance stuff. There's so much all of this stuff in Rome itself. And you would be excused for missing these. And do you know? Did you actually go around the corner and actually see the apartment block, the red brick apartment block, which was from the Roman period, Henry?
Yeah, we did.
You did?
But as you can see, it was rather busy.
Yeah.
On the right-hand side, you can't see it, but there's a wonderful Parmesan cheese shop, actually.
Oh.
And you managed to get in there?
Just.
But just describe, oh wow. Describe that multi-story, the red brick multi-story. Just describe it. You did see it, so what was it like?
It was just the whole thing. You just get overwhelmed with everything that you see around you, because every time you turn a corner, there's another structure, there's another building.
Yeah.
And it just knocks you sideways.
But it's living within the moment, and also. You could be mistaken for not mentioning Cleopatra's Needle there on the left, which is one of the which was a gift given by Cleopatra to Rome, and this basically the streets of Rome. I think I mentioned this the other week. The streets of Rome was a living and breathing museum. So this was, in a way. When you think about, I'm going to mention it, when you think about Albert Speer and you think about his models for Adolf Hitler, wanting to build this museum at Leeds or Berlin, I'm not sure exactly, but there was two ideas. There was, I know the design in my head. It was like this, but a huge museum, like a huge dome museum. And what the plan was they were going to have a bit of French stuff in there, Italian stuff in there, Greek stuff in there, Turkish stuff, Russian stuff. It was going to be this huge museum, right? And this is what I think of every time I look at this. And I don't know why. It's just probably me going in a different direction. But when we do actually do the presentation on this, and we do actually look at the Pantheon in a lot more detail, again, it's reminding of that. This reminds me of when I went to St. Paul's Cathedral. And again, you're thinking about Christopher Wren. Yeah. Christopher Wren, and I mentioned this last night. Christopher Wren, for example, is already gone on the Great Tour. Has got some awareness of architecture in Europe.
Yeah.
And this is all that stuff that's going on from the sort of mid 1600s, and then you've got the idea of the Great Fire of Christopher Wren. You've got the rebuilding of London after 1666 and the Great Fire and the Plague and all the rest of it, and you've got all that. And yes, you mentioned the Trajan's column then, or was it Marcus Aurelius's column, Henry? But the point is, the point I'm trying to make is that you know, you go to St. Paul's Cathedral and you get up in the gallery there, and I can remember there's a whispering gallery. You can whisper, and on the opposite side somebody can hear you, right? And I'm just thinking, our architects are so influenced by Rome from the 1650s onwards, and then it goes even through to landscaping into the mid 1700s with Capability Brown and all the rest of it. So this stuff is so influential. It's just that we're not aware of this stuff before the sort of 1600s, because what we've got our own architectural forms, right? And then again, I can't believe that this is a real image, but it is. It's so pristine. It's so cute. It's so everything that Rome isn't. Because this is, when you compare this with something like the Colosseum, or when you compare it with Trajan's column or Marcus Aurelius's column, or you compare it with the tomb of Emperor Hadrian, right? It's not the same thing. It's a different experience. Now, I'm going to say it, folks, and I apologized last night, and I didn't need to apologize, right? Because you guys know that I'm a little bit of a fan of Mussolini, right? Not because of his political bent, but because of what he did for archaeology. So when Mussolini comes to power in 1922, I think it is, when he comes to power, he's deciding whether he's going to be a socialist, a fascist, and all the rest of it. And he thought he goes in that way instead, right? So anyway, the point is that to show off Rome, what he did before the invasion of Abyssinia in 1936, he decides to clear the center of Rome of all the late medieval stuff, all the Renaissance stuff, all the other crap, right? He decides to bulldoze and clear it all to reveal the ancient forum and heart of Rome. He wants to see a recreation of the Roman Empire. So what you've got, he then gets the original sort of plaza and sort of, the area and the avenue and all the rest of it. So his idea was that you've got you've got the center, the Forum of Rome, you've got the Colosseum, you've got all these wonderful buildings, and his troops could march into the center of London with all this Roman stuff around. That's what Mussolini did. And then some people argue, oh, it's all good for you to say that, Karl, right? But Mussolini demolished people's homes to do this. And I'm thinking, well, if it wasn't for what Mussolini did, you wouldn't be seeing this now, because it would be cladded with other buildings and it would be invaded by sort of various other medieval stuff and all the rest of it. That was all cleared by Mussolini, right? So you can either say, oh, Mussolini's a bad guy for doing this, but you wouldn't be seeing if it wasn't for Mussolini. So, you can see it that way. And I've been massively influenced over the years by an archaeologist called John Romer, who didn't apologize for that when he did his television series as well. And again, this is so much different from the Pantheon. It's a world of difference. And look at these here. These are not Corinthian. This is not a Corinthian influence. So towards, I think when I'm trying to get the dates. The Emperor Vespasian into about 70s, 80s sort of AD. That's how the date for this. I haven't got the dates in front of me, but this, as we know, was cladded with marble. And one little quick fact with that was that this was still shining as a white edifice in the 500s and the 600s and so on. But what happened? They decided that they needed marble, and the marble created the best mortar for our wonderful people in the Vatican, right? So basically, to create all that, they stripped it of all that marble. And the other thing as well is it doesn't look like this all the way around, because it's not completely looking like this all the way around. No, you want to say something, Henry?
It is missing a good probably 50% of it.
Yeah, it is. It's missing a hell of a lot, isn't it? So, but this is the thing. It's Henry's demonstrated earlier on that you're going down the street and you're seeing stuff, and some things are not always what you expect when you go to somewhere like Rome, when you go to somewhere like Pompeii. Some things are, if you look at it from one angle like this, you can see it, but if you look at it from the another angle, it's gone. You know. So again, looking at this again, and back to Socia Agrippina, Fecit made me, and again, I'd love to come back to these. And what I might do is I might take a break at this bit. And Henry's right, Trajan's column, but just quickly, you're looking at all of these sort of little niches that would have had statues in. And you're looking at the light coming down, so that and as it goes further and further up, the concrete gets finer and finer because it's grounded finer and finer as you get to the top. So the weight load at the top of the dome is not the same consistency and weight load as the panels down at the bottom. So you can offset the weight and support this, and it's absolutely amazing that this is still there today. We're going to look at this after the break. So we're going to come out and couple more Roman images to look at. Let's just end that now. Stop the screen sharing. That was, thanks for those contributions, Henry, but a little bit more after the break. So let's see if Henry's got anything to say.
No, I've got unfortunately, I've got loads of photographs of that site. So I didn't want to overblow it.
No.
But to be honest, Rome is just literally, you just walk at every 5-10 yards and you just got something to basically see.
And you've got a camera that is running out of exactly.
I've been to Rome recently, well, in the last 10 years, and it was a year of pilgrimage, so it was packed with South Americans.
Oh, bloody South Americans, they get everywhere.
And yeah, I saw all those, but we only had one day. No, we didn't have a day. We only had like 6 hours, in Rome.
What are you supposed to do in 6 hours in Rome? Sit in a restaurant?
No, we went to the Forum and the Colosseum and all that, but and we went to the Pantheon and the centre and saw all the fountains, and but it was a bit like a bit rush really. We'd like to go back, but you can only do so much in a day, can't you?
We're doing an archaeology Cymru trip there. Goff will go.
You need to do several days at least.
Yes,
and
yes.
Have good walking shoes as well.
Yes. I don't think I could do it now, to be honest.
Can you just eat off food from street vendors? Can you just do that and not go in any restaurants?
Oh, there's some very nice restaurants in Rome, which the locals use.
Yeah.
We went for a pizza.
Oh, now come on, Anne.
No, we were on a tour.
Oh, come on.
With a bus. So they told us where to go. No, they didn't. Oh, yeah, they booked us in. They booked us into a sort of pizza place, yeah. But
it's Pizza Hut.
No, you need to go to a proper trattoria.
Proper pizza, and you didn't have to have pizza, you could have pasta or, and it was lovely. And I'm sure it was on, I think it was on some square or other. There was quite empty in the middle. Oh, no, it wasn't.
Anyway,
around the corner from the Vatican.
Oh, right. St. Peter's. Well, okay. Right. Anything from you, Henry? Richard?
No, very interesting.
Right. Anything from you, Goff?
No, fantastic pictures there. Really, good. Really good. Just a comment. I was in Pompeii in 1974.
Bloody hell!
And it was nothing like that when I went. There was no interactive stuff. The excavations weren't as sophisticated as that. It's completely different experience. So I'm hoping to go back there and see that. So it looks really great. Well done, Henry. Yeah, really,
Yeah.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you do go back, take plenty of water with you.
yeah,
Because once you're in there, you can't get any. So, and as I say, certainly if you choose,
Oh, in there. Oh, right.
so if you can get in there quite easily by catching the local train from anywhere. The
Yeah.
station's just outside.
yeah,
Right.
And the best thing is just tag on to someone else's tour. You don't have to pay for it.
Is that what you did?
Typical. Oh, flip me now.
Yeah, you can do that if you know where you're going. I
Hey,
just said I'd get lost.
I can remember I did I used to do walks around Caerphilly Castle this one day, and I was just like, I thought, right, okay. I had like 6 people on this walk, right, and I'm going around, and then the next minute there's 8. I was thinking by the end I've got 20 people on the walk, and I didn't realise that most of them hadn't even paid. Yeah, that was a bit odd. Right, okay, then we'll take a break. It's 8:21. We'll be back at 8:35. We will see you then.
Okay.
Change my Golden Gate Bridge. Maybe I'll do grass. Video filters. Agree. Maybe we could have that. Oh, there. Look at that. Oh, that'll do. That looks really good. I like that. We'll have a bit of that. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Have a bit of that, couldn't we? I like that. That'll do. All right, let's do. Eat a dream. I've got to feed those chickens. We're gonna feed those chickens. We're gonna get those chickens fed. La, 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 la. I got to do panny pinball with a thimble. Panny pinball thimble.
I haven't got a comfortable chair. No, oh, we've put a bed in the bedroom now, and I can't go in there.
Are we in your bedroom, man?
Huh?
Are we in your bedroom?
No, I'm in the conservatory.
There's nothing wrong with a bit of nookie in the bedroom.
No,
Yeah, that's where you
I
should be
just
having
said,
nookie.
if you listen, I said I haven't got a comfortable chair anymore.
So we gotta go to bed with you. If
I'm
we
in the conservatory, and it's got it's our storage space.
Oh, that's what they call it nowadays. Is there wink, wink, nudge, nudge, a bit of storage
No, you
space?
got all sorts of things.
Oh yeah, I bet you they do.
Like my bag. Oh. But I haven't got any curtains either, so it's just black, isn't it? Is it all right?
Yeah, you can't use the word black, and it's racist.
Are you all right,
Who?
Richard?
Oh, Richard's
You all
always
right?
right, you know. Wink, wink.
You all right? What are you
We
going to
got
do in
both.
the rain? What are you going to do when it starts raining?
Had a bit today, didn't we?
Yeah.
Not a lot.
No,
Didn't have much here.
it was in the morning here, but and I don't know. It looks. Oh, it's raining now. Yeah.
It's raining, man.
Well,
The
What are
problem
you
is,
going to do in the autumn? It's going to be bad weather now for a few weeks.
is it? I don't know.
so
I hope you haven't got any harvesting to do.
no.
Well, to be honest with you, the sheep keep us busy enough. I just waiting for a cup of tea. Actually, then we're gonna
right,
get started
okay.
again. Robert Hood, Robert Hood, Robert of the Hood, Robert Hood, Robert Hood, Robert of the Hood, feared by the bad, loved by the good, Robert of the Hood, Robert of the Hood, Robert of the Hood.
So we're going to have a trip
Why
to.
does it take ages for a
We're going to
chemistry?
have a trip to Nangaru then, and have a cup of tea and some barra breath.
No.
It's gone to the alarm.
I'm looking for a lift. I am.
What's that too? Sorry.
Huh?
Where in Nangaruga?
Oh, it's sort of Treforest.
Oh, what a beautiful morning! Oh, what a beautiful
Oh.
day!
The museum. is
Oh,
it?
got a wonderful feeling!
Oh,
You've
I'm not
already done
supposed to be.
that.
Nothing is coming my
I'm not
way.
supposed to be talking about it because it's a competitor.
What's a competitor?
Well,
What?
Nangaru Museum.
What are you on about, Anne?
Oh, I'm trying to get a group to go to Nangaru.
Oh,
Look, you know,
I
I need a driver though, and you know.
Oh, well, I'm going to volunteer Goff straight away. He'll go with you.
Well, no, Goff's can't just go, can he?
Yeah, he can. He's been. I tell you what, Goff sends me secret messages every week. He's wanted to take you out to the cinema, all sorts of things.
Well, Pat would, you know, I was going to ask Pat, but I don't know if she'll be able to.
Well, I blame it on the one-legged donkeys. I do. And you still send a donation to the one-legged donkey sanctuary?
No.
All right. Yeah. Right. So I gotta be honest with you. This to me is everything. Right. So not so many years.
It's quite unusual. It's got.
Well, and I'm doing the bloody talk, not you. Right. Anyway, so this to me is amazing, because when I saw that they were excavating, there's 1/3 of Pompeii that hasn't been touched at all, right? Anyway,
I
so
think it's more than that now.
well, because they're finding that Pompeii's a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and also I'm pretty, my little grey cells do tell me that there's probably another little town out there that they don't even know existed. So there you go. But for me, when I originally saw that they had a building of this extent, of this height, obviously there's been reconstruction here as well, which is fine, but the remains were standing in places as tall as this, and I just thought, oh my god, this is so amazing. This is just a snapshot of what was probably there when they initially started work on the bigger workings in Pompeii in the 1750s. But obviously, due to people wanted to get down to the ground level, lots of this was destroyed, blah, blah, blah. But we are now seeing the reveal of the true extent of the majesty of what a Pompeii front looked like. You know, the true ground floor, the first floor, and you've got the beautiful columns there, and you're looking at these are actually stone, not the brickwork, as you know, they you do brick columns and so on. But this is well, it's a lot of this is sort of the sandstone. But the point with this is that it's amazing, and I would probably say leave it maybe a couple of years, and then this will be open for everybody to see. And I don't know exactly what they're going to do here, but can you remember at the beginning I basically said, you know, they're not really doing the conservation work that they should do at Pompeii? Yes, they are, right? Should they be excavating more at Pompeii? Well, if they hadn't have excavated more recently at Pompeii, we wouldn't be seeing this. I've also said that what they should do at Pompeii is put a dome over the whole thing. Well, they are starting to do that in places at Pompeii. And to the credit of the Italian government and the amount of money that they make out of tourists going to Pompeii, this is a true wonder. When I was 10, I had some life goals, right? And one of the life goals was to try and save Pompeii, was to try and raise the money to sort of make sure that Pompeii was preserved, and they're actually doing it now. One of the other aims was actually to buy the whole event, Cleaver Atrabatum, Silchester, and rebuild it, but that's not going to happen either. But the point as well, this is great, and I'm only hoping that you know, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Maybe what they should do is now be focusing on more of this type of work, and it would make Pompeii a lot more accessible, because there are bits of Pompeii that have become overgrown by plant growth and so on, and that's the bits that they've got to retackle. But if they could get to the stage that hey, all bits of Pompeii look like this, then there's no reason why they can't continue excavating. What I could say a lot more, but I would like to hear from Henry of what he was thinking when he saw this. What were you thinking when you saw this, Henry?
Just turn the microphone on.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I'm going to interrupt you again. Am I right to be as excited as I am about looking at this? You tell me if I'm wrong or right.
It's difficult to tell you the scale of this actual piece of work, because it goes for up the block quite a bit, and it goes back in a long way as well. I can't actually remember what the building was, what it was, but it obviously had some serious importance. But if you look at pictures also of Herculaneum,
yes,
you'll also see two ground floor and first floor.
Yes.
It is still existing today as a row of shops. I've sent you a picture. You might not get to it tonight.
Oh, which we'll do. I won't get to it tonight, but we'll do that next week. Yeah, we
Yeah.
will. We will.
But obviously, there you get the impression of shops. This was obviously some sort of major type of building. But it is a massive task that they've taken on here. But I have to admit, if you go around the site, this is probably very isolated, this type of work.
Yeah. But is there a sign that they could be doing more of this?
There's one or two, I think there were one or two smaller areas where they were doing it, but the site is just so big.
Yeah.
It's just really problematic about how they can actually take on board the whole thing. It's such a vast site. I mean, literally to go around it, a day doesn't do it justice.
No.
Certainly by the time you do things like the amphitheatre as well, which is colossal, you can walk inside, basically where the gladiators would have come out from underneath. So it's an incredible structure they got there. I think it holds 20,000 people.
Yeah.
In Pompeii.
Yeah.
Pompeii. Yeah.
Oh.
So again, before we move from this image, because I want to do a little bit about Trajan's column. I want to do a little bit about the Dacian War before we do that properly next week. It's for me, this is amazing. This is what they should have been doing a long time ago, and it's what they're doing in Spain a lot when they're excavating some of the archaeology in Spain. They're reconstructing it as they're going along. So instead of what we do in this country, we excavate archaeological sites, then we spend about 2 or 3 years getting the money to sort of preserve it, and the damage has already been done. In Spain, they've got a habit of excavating sites and recording it all and then reconstructing it, and it's great. So, but this is more consolidation rather than reconstruction. Lots of this was there when they excavated it, and it's a really weird concept, being an archaeologist, thinking that you're starting basically on the first floor and you're excavating down. Oh, there's a column, we've got a whole shop, and then we're going to go into the room and stuff. Really weird stuff. Enough to blow your mind away. So this is what the rest of Pompeii looks like, but this is actually
That's a laundry, that is.
Yeah. This is what the rest of Pompeii looks like, and again, typical laundry type thing. And this idea that you're spending a penny, well, in lots of ways, you're being paid for your piddle. But I don't think you're being paid every time you have a pee. I think if you take a flagon of it along, I don't know how it worked, but this again is a laundry, and that sort of.
They use pee.
Yes, they use pee. Male pee usually, except female pee is good for dyeing. If you've ever seen the television series called Outlander, right? There's a scene in, I think, the first season that all the women have peed in a bucket and they're laundering their wool. Female pee is good for laundering wool. Male pee is just for normal laundry. So,
okay.
And again, looking down at the street, again, that sort of vista when I was in school. I know we've looked at this in detail, and again, sort of thinking that you do have marble there. And I got to be honest with you, when I was a child, some streets in Barry looked like this. So it's with curbstones and it's just of what I was trying to express earlier on was that with say you got the pavement, you got the curb, and then you drop down onto the road. But obviously, the stepping stones are there for a reason to step across, so you don't get covered in whatever you're stepping in as you're going across. And we're loving the marble there, that detail.
Well, the other thing actually is if you try and step off those curbstones,
it's quite high.
It's quite high, and you'll end up doing your ankle. So I think the crossing points are quite regular, obviously, but I think they also serve the purpose of actually stopping people actually ending up breaking their ankle.
Yeah,
Actually, you can see it from there. It's quite a drop, isn't it?
yeah. I couldn't do it.
Oh, you just stay on the pavement
Not
and
now.
exactly stay on the pavement. And obviously, this is one of the temples, isn't it? And
Yes.
sort of giving you. Obviously, there'd be a lot of render, a lot of stucco there. It'd be whitewashed. And one thing I was actually saying, now this is an interesting thing, right? You can tell me if I'm wrong or right, but not so. Just over a decade before the eruption of Vesuvius, in AD 79, there'd been an earth tremor and some real serious damage caused to Pompeii, and this is a sign of it because you've got these marble column, the one on the right there, and that has been rebuilt by brick. And what you see, this is work being done back after that, those earth tremors in the 60s, in the AD 60s, and you can clearly see there that that's toppled over and that's been re-erected. And so and then what would happen, that they just sort of render over that and paint it white and it would look like marble. But this again, Vesuvius was going to happen sooner or later. Vesuvius was always happening. So of every few decades, there would be a serious tremor, and it would cause serious damage to the likes of Pompeii. And you get an idea of that this is actually an earlier phase of construction at Pompeii because of the big chunky drums. That's what we call them, which would obviously support capitals and Corinthian capitals on top of that. Yeah, and the reason why, all this stuff, that's Herculaneum, isn't it?
It is, yes.
We're not doing that today. It seems it would spoil it if we did it today, but and that there. Hang on a minute, that's Marcus Aurelius's.
Yes, it's a different one.
Yeah, that's not Trajan's column. It's Marcus Aurelius's. Yeah, we're going to be doing that after the break. But this is
Break.
What?
Oh
yeah, sorry. We'll be doing it next week. Oh no, we'll be doing it after we. Oh, and you keep confusing me. We've had the break, but again, this is Herculaneum, isn't it? Or is it Pompeii?
No,
this is Pompeii.
Hold on. Give me a moment.
I think this is Pompeii.
No, it is. Sorry, it is Herculaneum.
It is Herculaneum.
Yeah, just looked at my pictures.
So one of the things with the scallop, I've just a little bit of an anecdotal story. That there, it doesn't seem, it more represents a scallop shell. That there, the fan above, rather than a fan per se. And one of the that reminds me when I was in Cyprus back in 1989. I discovered a little Roman town, which was great, and there was above a water fountain which I'd found in this valley. There was this massive stone cut thing with a scallop design on there like that, intricately carved, and sort of loads of bits of ruins around there as well. However, again, before we sort of move on, I know we've shown this before. This is actually mosaic. These are all individual mosaic pieces. And this is actually on a wall. This is a little miniature house shrine. And the detail there, again, that you'd expect surviving from the likes of Pompeii and Herculaneum is exquisite. And the big question is, do we have examples like this in Britain? Yeah, we do have fresco designs like this in Britain. We do have mosaic on the floor designs like this in Britain. But Britain never ever become as luxurious as the towns and cities in the rest of the Roman Empire. So many thanks for that. And we'll do these wonderful images next week. We'll look at them. But when we talk about the Trajan's column, this is Marcus Aurelius's column. And what is this all about? So that's where we're going to go next. And so if we could go off that, and thank you for that, Henry. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go to here, there. Right. Now, I've decided to do this in 2 bits. A lot of detail next week, a little bit of information this week. I was obviously asked to look at the likes of, we wanted to know more about the Dacians, we wanted to know more about Trajan's column. So I've decided that we will have a good look at that next week. And I'm going to get my notes up here. And let me get this. Where is this? Come on. There we go. Right. Okay, there we go. Now, it's better if I sort of introduce looking at Trajan's column a little bit today and then go into it in great detail. So reading an ancient comic strip, which is actually this huge column. There you go. The one that we just seen is Marcus Aurelius's, which is 112 foot tall. Trajan's column is 126 foot, a marble pillar. So this was known as a victory monument. And after the death of Emperor Trajan, this defined who Emperor Trajan was. And it was a column that would have been beautifully decorated, that from the bottom all the way to the top, looking at Trajan's victory over the Dacian people. Mm-hmm. But it was a long campaign. So what we've got, I think we'll what we've got there, and it's very difficult to get it on the screen. So the victory of the Roman Emperor Trajan over the Dacians in back-to-back wars is carved in numerous scenes that spiral around a 126-foot marble pillar in Rome, known as Trajan's Column. It's a tale that reads like an ancient comic strip. Now, this isn't answered, but how is the average person meant to understand this? Because it's 126 foot high, you can probably only read a few meters of it. And the point is that so you travel in time from the bottom to the top, and it's exquisite spiral detail. And what you try and work out and what you try and get from this is that if we go here, and all of these colors indicate different phases of the wall. So basically the purple represents the marches. So there's scenes about the soldiers marching. The red bits show you scenes from battles, right? Various battles, about 3 major battles against the Dacians over this period, epic battles, lots of other battles as well. Other scenes, general sort of soldiering things, buildings and stuff. And also 12% of this is the orange stuff that actually describes the construction of the column. So there's a bit of vanity there. Negotiations, the lighter green bits of negotiations, the sort of deep sort of green there, which isn't very much, a sort of sacrifices. The grey bits are defining Trajan's speeches, right? And also there's little blue bits there that are actually mentioned by the historians. So the point is if this whole thing hadn't been created as a victory column through Emperor Trajan, we wouldn't have the story that we've got today, because the blue bits on there are bits that were described by historians, but we wouldn't have the full story. So this is a wonderful work that sort of defines little areas and snapshots. Hang on, I had this yesterday. Hang on a minute. Hang on, there. Hang on, go. I had this problem yesterday. Oh, there. And what it is when you look at, what's that?
I didn't see this.
No, there's two of them. So I don't know. You've missed both of them. Oh, basically, if we show you the image of this,
Amazing.
it's not. Yeah, it's not
Oh.
far away at all.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah, I know you saw that, but there's the top of the column. It's not far away at all. It is actually Trajan still on the top today. So this is. Hang on, have we got another image of Trajan's column in this? I could. There it is. Oh no, that's not Trajan. Is that? No, this is. That's Marcus Aurelius's column again. But what we've got here is that I wanted to get into detail next week. So what we've got is this whole column describes three, if not more, of the battles against the Dacians. Now, I would say, and the reason why the Dacians are so fascinating is that the Romans never really defeated the Dacians, because you've got the Carpathian Mountains there, which is a place that the Dacians retreated into, and they had support from the Sarmatians. So what we've got, the Sarmatians there, that's really interesting, and because they're mentioned as well. And the Romans have built loads of forts as well. The reason why they're after the Dacians is that what they want to do is they want to get hold of the Dacians' gold, and they want to get hold of the Dacians' silver. And there it is. When you think about it, there's modern day Romania, and the area that Dacia covered is absolutely massive. And again, the Dacians, as I've said to you, are dealt with in a great deal different way than the Romans attacking any other people. They give them so much respect. So again, when there's Emperor Trajan himself. He's one of these great emperors. Now, the reign of Emperor Trajan is really interesting, because what we've got Emperor Trajan, 98 to 117 AD 117. It goes through the reign. Then we've got Hadrian, right? And Antonius Pius. So for good best part of 50 plus years, and then we go into the reign of Marcus, and then the Marcus Aurelius dies in 180. So there's stability in the Roman Empire, and this is why you're able to build these great things. Marcus Aurelius has this huge column erected to him as well, and you've got Trajan with this huge column, and it's just the fascinating way of remembering what you've done. Julius Caesar didn't have anything like this. It would have been good to cross-reference the likes of Caesar. If
we don't know where it is.
Julius Caesar didn't have a column.
No, we don't know where Trajan's column is.
Yes, in Rome.
It's in Rome.
Oh.
It's in Rome. I told you it's in Rome. You said you went to St. Mark's Square.
Yeah, but I didn't see it. No, I was in I was in a bus.
You can't miss
you
it.
You somewhere else then. See, it's big. It's tall. It's 126 meters tall. 126 foot tall land. Get over it. Right. So Trajan's army included not only professional soldiers, but also auxiliaries, conscripts, and mercenaries from across the empire. Most of the Trajans are dressed in trousers, tunics, and cloaks, while the Sarmatians, who were the allies of the Dacians, are shown in armor. Right now, the interesting thing about all of this is we've got a good cross-section of what the Roman soldiers and the Dacians looked like from the carvings on the column. The other thing about the carvings on the column, they weren't carved on the column 80 years later. They were carved on the column not so long after the death of Emperor Trajan, right? So, so it's a homage to in contemporary homage with carvers creating something from actual memory. These people may have been in the campaign as well. So what we look at this, and we got the little miniature helmets sort of on the soldiers as well, and we've got an idea of the shields. The stuff on the left is the Roman stuff. The stuff on the right what we've got a Dacian helmet, which is quite ornate. And then we've got the Dacian warriors that, as we've already described, inevitably without armor, shown without armors, with similar sort of auxiliary type shields. That's on the Dacians. And the Sarmatian cavalrymen, Moorish cavalrymen. We've got Moorish cavalrymen. So what that simply means, in lots of ways, the Romans struggled with cavalry. The Romans always struggled with cavalry, so they would usually bring other people in to fight their battles. And again, all these little figures. So I'm. It's going to be really interesting to see how I manage to do this next week, because it's going to be put together. I can't do the whole column. I can't. It's just not possible. It's like me doing every single scene from the Bayeux Tapestry. I'm not going to do it. But what we'll do, we'll pick out little bits. We'll explain what the soldiers look like and see how that works, and see if we can do that. And again, telling the story as well, that on the column, left hand side again, we got armored officers, auxiliary infantrymen with their shields, with their oblong shields and their spears, and getting an idea that northern Dacians, remember that cutting knife there, the sort of really sharp knife that they got, that sort of pseudo half moon knife. And what we've got there, we've got the wolf standards sort of the Dacian and the Sarmatians and so on, and the eagle standard of Rome on the left. So again, thinking about all of this is that it's an absolutely amazing story, looking at this and trying to tell the story. And in many ways, what we've got is that I can give you some other facts and figures. So if we go to, if we go back there, basically this is done in blocks. So it's not done in one solid marble thing. It's done in sort of, right? It's done in blocks, right? So so you're probably, a carver's going to have to match the next bit with the other guy and so on. There are 155 scenes over the 126 foot tall monument. So there's 155 scenes. So it's a proper history book. It's a monumental spiral history book. Did I say? And so what we've got is that I'm going to correct myself. Right, it's good to correct myself. The existing statue on the top, right? Even though it's got it there, Trajan, the existing statue on the top was replaced with the statue of Saint Peter, right? And so it's not Trajan there now, but it's originally Trajan, installed by the Renaissance Pope on top. Towers over the ruins of Trajan's Forum, which once included 2 libraries and a grand civic space, paid for by war spoils from Dacia. Now, when you look at all the friezes and you look at all the detail, it's got scenes where stuff is coming back. The Roman soldiers are coming back, and I told you the other week that when Trajan sort of said, look, I need to raise a tax to fight the Dacians, and then people are coming back to Rome and with cart loads of goodies from Dacia. People are saying, hang on a minute, right? We're not going to pay any tax anymore. Look at the amount of wealth that you brought back with you. So this is so the tax didn't need to be paid anymore, which was really good. Trajan was a really good emperor, because it's his dynasty that led to Hadrian, and led to Antonius Pius, led to Marcus Aurelius, and then unfortunately we ended up with Commodus, and things started to collapse by about 180. So so the likes of Trajan, so we got these back walls around AD 101 to AD 106, and the Emperor Trajan mustered tens of thousands of Roman troops, a massive army, and it's, some people say that, some people could argue that the Dacians, the Dacian army was wiped from the face of the earth, but they did come back again. The people came back again, right? So they and they got the Carpathians, and this was the big part of Dacia after they defeated the Dacian land army. This is one chronicler says, and we'll give you some of these facts and figures now, and we can sort of come back to it next week again. Look at these beautiful scenes here that we've got there. Reading like a comic strip. And why have I got Marcus? Hang on a minute. That's that one. These are both Marcus Aurelius's. Why haven't I got Trajan's there? Anyway, so what we got when we look at that there, if this was originally painted. So what they got coming back is one contemporary chronicler boasted that the conquest, wait for it, yielded £500,000 of gold in weight. That's £500,000 of gold in weight. I don't know how many. I don't know how much gold that is in volume, but it's a lot of gold. £500,000 in weight. £1,000,000 of silver, right? And also it was a great grazing landscape as well. And initially, right, there was this huge bronze statue of Trajan on top. And a few final points. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get onto Google now, and I want to get the forum area to sort of give you that, because there's something that I want to tell you from the text here, and then we'll call it a day. That'll be a good end, to be honest with you. But what we're going to do there quickly is sort of show you some of these scenes. I'm going to go onto Google in a moment. This scene shows Roman soldiers loading plunder onto pack animals after defeating Decebalus, the Dacian king. Casts such as this one preserve details on Trajan's column that pollution in other areas is slightly damaged and eroded away. So what we've got in a visual narrative that winds from the column's base to its top, Trajan and his soldiers triumph over the Dacians. In this scene from a plaster and marble cast made between 1939 and 1943. So they've done lots of casts because there's been a lot of damage to the column since. But this is a cast, so these are casts of what's there. And so obviously you've got Trajan there. Hang on, you got Trajan on the left there, and you've got some of his administrators, and these are two heads from defeated warriors, probably Dacians that have been beheaded. And one point with this is this reminds me of a scene from the film Gladiator within the first sort of 10 minutes where Marcus Aurelius has sent some senators off to have a word with the Germanic tribal leaders, and they send back heads, and that sort of scene, but it's the other way around, where you've got these Roman heads. So what we're going to do now is what do we do now? Oh yes, we're going to go online now, and we're going to look sort of Trajan's column and the forum. Trajan's column and forum. And we'll look at that. Good. Images. So what we've got there, that's what I'm looking for. Look at the majesty of that. Look at that there. And it's just I can't understand why you didn't see it. I just can't. So the point I want to make from this image here are 2 points. All of this is revealed because this was all basically streets and stuff in the 1920s and 30s, and all the buildings were removed, and obviously the forum area revealing itself. And what we've got is we're struggling to get more actually. And it says, so there we go. We've got the booty changed the landscape of Rome to celebrate the victory. Trajan commissioned a forum that included a spacious plaza, bolognese, a grand civic space known as the Basilica Ulpia, and possibly even a temple. The forum unique under the heavens, one historian said, and one earlier enthused, beggaring description and never again to be by mortal men. But weirdly enough, Marcus Aurelius had his own victory column constructed years later. So I think that that's a good place to end actually. Before we boot ourselves out. So let's finish there and see if there's any questions. Right. Okay. There we go. Okay. Right. Let's see if there's any questions. Anne, is there anything you want to say?
People thought a lot of themselves, didn't they? I mean, when you think about, the Greeks and like their gods, and the Romans, their gods, they're the next, they come from gods, it's sort of, I suppose in a way, that's what people don't like today. They don't like the pomp and ceremony that we still have, really, with royalty and that, So I don't know. It's a lot of fine work done by craftsmen, and we have to
skilled craftsmen.
Skilled craftsmen, and the great great architects, and it is where it's like a point of reference, isn't it?
In a way, what you are talking about, to put it in a nutshell, you're talking about Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel. Is that what you're talking about? This is the equivalent.
I mean, I suppose that were they all built after the Romans left, really, but
what I'm trying to say, is that obviously with the Renaissance, and you're talking about the 1400s and the 1500s, you've got like this revival of art, right? In a way, for the sake of art. I think what you're trying to say is that Trajan's column is for the sake of art, because this could not be created by craftsmen if they hadn't done it. An emperor's not going to be able to make this. A soldier's not going to be able to make this, right? It has to be done by craftsmen, right? So
it is probably exquisite, I would think, exquisite work, and
very.
So that's what you've shown us today. Interesting.
So I'm gonna battle through, and Henry, if you want to send me anything, then we could do a tiny bit of Heracleum next week, and obviously Trajan's, and if anything comes up in the news as well. So anyway, thank you for that, Anne.
Okay.
Richard looks like he's just about to go to bed and have his hot noodle. Richard's looking like a guy in Barry called Gary. Richard, anything you want to say?
No, very interesting.
Yeah, I enjoyed reading your article for the book today, and it's quite shocking, isn't it, when you compare about the you've got these 5 people lumped together as being killed in the bombing in Barry in 1941. But did you know the bombing in Barry in 1940, that was only 2 days after the first bombs dropped on Cardiff in Wales, the first ever. Barry had some of the first bombs ever dropped on Wales. Swansea was bombed to hell, and then, well, no, it wasn't. Swansea wasn't bombed to hell. A few bombs dropped on Swansea by accident. Say that again. But that was part of the later blitz. Yeah, but that was later on. Yeah, that was later on. So the first bombs were dropped on Swansea by basic accident, and they did some damage. Then we go to Cardiff, and then Barry, and then not so long after they flattened Swansea, which did a lot of good, to be honest.
They must have been aiming for Cardiff when they when they bombed Newport, because it was like,
oh well, hang on a minute. Have you seen the state of Newport today? They didn't finish the job. The Luftwaffe. It's a terrible, horrible place.
oh, actually, I was talking on Facebook today. I met somebody from the Basque. She's the granddaughter of a Basque refugee, and a lot of them went to Clean.
What's that got to do with the
No,
price of milk?
Isn't it awful to think that they had that war in Spain and and then they came here 4 years later and they had Second World War too.
Well, they should have come here in the first place. It's their fault that they bombed it.
It's just like, what's happening now? Civil wars.
Hang on, Anne. Stop. You can't be saying things like that. Right. Okay, then. Right, Henry, anything you want to say, Dal?
Yeah, what you should look at is the Victoria and Albert Museum.
Yeah.
Room 46A, you'll find a complete copy of the column.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
What? Hang on. When you say the column, vertically?
It's in 2 sections.
Oh my God!
It means you can see it.
Yeah, you can actually see it.
Hang on a minute. This is the Victoria and Albert Museum. Yeah, we got. Oh, do you know what I might do? You may have actually. I didn't know that. So what I might do is do my research based on that for next week, and it'll probably make things easier for me. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there are some very good close-up images. There's not many images, but there's some close-up images.
Do you know what I might do? Do you know what I might do for next week? What I might do is I might get a book, right? A whole book on Trajan's column, right? And that would then be the best. That's what I'm going to do. You sold it.
Just take excitement out of the research. Hello.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Stop it. Right.
And if you wanted to see bombing, you needed to go to Southampton because that didn't have a brick left.
Hey, do you know what? Before we go on to golf, right? Before we go on to golf, there was something else the other day, and one of those little nuggets I picked up, and there was this historian talking, and they were saying that when you look at photographs after the Coventry Blitz, lots of the medieval buildings and lots of the Tudor buildings are still standing, right? And it's the same as Plymouth, right? But they had this town planner come in whose name I don't want to mention, and he basically said this is an opportunity. They decided to flatten everything that remained, right? Get rid of all the medieval stuff, get rid of all the Tudor stuff, and they blamed it on the Nazis, right? So they flattened it all, and they took people. Look what the Nazis did. They flattened it all, but they didn't. It was these town planners who did the worst. I can't really say that there was a fireball. There was a fireball that went through Coventry like Dresden, but there were lots of buildings still standing, and Plymouth was the same. They had these beautiful medieval Tudor buildings still standing in Plymouth, right? But the town planner decided to demolish the lot. You blame it on the Nazis. Everything else is blamed on them.
Unfortunately, Southampton was levelled.
Yeah,
my
house
was even levelled.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying.
Yeah.
It's a shame they didn't do the same with Southport, but that's life.
C'est la vie.
Yeah. And next time, if we got to recant history, we'll make sure that we give them proper directions to Newport.
I didn't get that. No.
And you don't want to bomb in Newport, then, right? Okay, then. By the way, I've got to find out if Goff is available to go with you to Nantgarrow. I'll ask him now. Goff, are you available tomorrow to take Anne to Nantgarrow?
No. Sorry.
Anne wants you to take her to Nantgarrow Potteries.
Oh, you're. Trying to avoid that, Karen.
Oh,
think
yeah, he
that would
can't
be-
get, he's banned, Dan.
I think that would be a bit too short notice for me.
But I was up
All
there
right, then.
last weekend. I
You
was up,
are?
Oh, guys. Yeah.
I went up there.
Oh, you did?
He was there.
I went to run the tiles.
Oh, yeah.
A load of tiles there, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
And
that's
they didn't know you go, and they haven't heard of you. They'd never heard of you.
Who?
Run the tiles.
Didn't run the tiles.
Oh, look,
Because the
they
first
used to
thing I
make
said was,
tiles. They used to
"Ah."
make tiles in that garage.
and they said, no, we never heard of that.
But not
I said, you
now.
must have heard of it. You must have been she went to Rome.
I got some
Trajan's
tiles.
column. And then, but she was in the pizzeria at the time. But, getting back to
Look, we'll make a plan.
no, I'm not going.
You're not going.
Getting back to Pompeii, you mentioned two other towns in the Bay of Naples that were.
All right.
And I'd never heard of those two names before. So
Yeah, there's a Plontus and Stabe base, and there's also another one new. No, right, I tell you what we're going to do. Where I will show you a map now, and I'll show you where they are. Come on, we're just a little bit on the end here. Goff, this is in revenge of all the time that Anna's kept the class going for 4 hours. Right, so and we do love you, you know. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at we'll look at
I'm gonna make a
Pompeii.
move now, so
What's
see you
that?
next week.
You're
Bye-bye.
going, are you? You're not going to see the Pompeii map. All right, Richard, I'll see you next week.
Bye.
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 Try, my darling.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Try, Richard.
And you know today there are...
Tiles is the wrong valley.
I don't give a fuck about the tiles. I really don't.
oh, Anne, I'm so sorry. That's not knowing that.
Right, Pompeii, Vesuvius. We'll just get a map up now. Hang on. Image. Oh, hang on. Image. No, image. Where's a map when I want one? Oh God, map. Oh, there, that one. Right. Okay. So what we've got? Oh, it's there. It's the one that I've used in teaching loads of times. That one. So what we've got is that I'll probably be doing this a load of times, but it's best to get an idea. So what we've got Messinum, which is where Pliny the Elder was on the day of the eruption. So he's writing at his desk at Misenum, and Pliny the Elder, who's like this great sort of polymath, he's a great book writer and whatever, but he's also in charge of the voluntary fleet. So as he's seeing the eruption and basically hearing screams in the distance and all the rest of it, he goes out with the fleet from Misenum and goes over to Oplontus, which is basically the harbour for Pompeii. So his body's found the next day asphyxiated on the beach, and basically most of his fleet is sort of laden down with pumice and all that crap, right? So Oplontus is where you've got storage buildings and you've got villas and stuff. Stebe is also really affected, but not as bad as Oplontus and Pompeii. Herculaneum doesn't have the ashes like Pompeii. It has the pyroclastic flow, right? So lava goes through the streets of Herculaneum. So you could probably you couldn't really outrun that, but if you could see the lava's actually coming towards the walls of Herculaneum, you could probably dart in the opposite distance. But the pyroclastic flows themselves were so bad in Herculaneum, they actually reached the beaches, right? And nobody could get away. And basically the water boils at Herculaneum. That's how bad it is. So you've also got another place there known as Eucharia, which is actually shown there. That's basically on the outskirts, and it's given a bit of a coating. Sorrentum's given a bit of a coating, but the main ones here, which is covered and lost, is Aplontus, Pompeii, most of Stabae, Herculaneum is under the pyroclastic flow.
All right.
I think Sorrentum is Sorrento today.
Yeah.
Been there, yeah.
Sorrento. So-
And then they found that people did escape.
Yes, they did. It's
And
just
they stayed in cellars and things like that.
yeah, and they choked to death. But
Oh,
the point
right.
the point is that you can imagine that because of the wind direction that day, it's a south. The wind is blowing in a southeasterly direction. So what am I trying to get across? People were heading in all sites because they couldn't see. It was dark.
Oh.
So people were heading directly towards Vesuvius.
Yeah.
The worst place to be was Aplontus. There was no way out. You couldn't go into the sea. You couldn't go north. You couldn't go east. You couldn't go south, west. You're trapped. You could get out of Pompeii. You could technically Herculaneum. You could head northwest, right? There's likely, and this is madness, right? But I would put a bottom dollar that there's somewhere along there's a very large village, if not a small town, that we've totally forgotten in history, right? And there's lots of villas. There's loads of villas that we don't even know are there, right? There are hundreds of villas for rich people who didn't like being at Pompeii. And again, most of them we'll never ever find. And the final point that Henry made was that they're now starting to find that there's more to Pompeii than meets the eye, because there's burial grounds outside Pompeii that they didn't know were there. So there's buildings outside Pompeii that they didn't know were there. But those would be the ones that would be preserved the best because they've not been touched. They're outside the walls of Pompeii and Herculaneum. And if they're heading towards Vesuvius, they're going to be covered in more ash. So they're going to be a lot deeper. And also, the best vineyards are going to be on the slopes of Vesuvius. So there's going to be small houses, there's going to be small buildings. They're going to be lost completely. And anything on the westerly slope is going to be gone forever because it would have just melted under the lava.
Yeah, somebody had a vineyard. I don't know if it was Vesuvius or Etna. I think it might be Etna.
Yeah, that's a different place, Sam.
I know, but they were just saying this vineyard was actually, still there, and the, the ash or whatever it was, the lava was just still very close to it, from the last eruption.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I don't know why I told you that. It just
I don't know why you told me that either, Anne.
Thank you for that. That's very good.
Thank you for that. Right, guys.
Right,
guys. We're going to call Anne.
No.
I'm going to look forward to next week.
Yeah.
Does the bus go there?
Go get a new washing machine.
He said,
right. I'm going to call it a night. I'm going to choke in a minute. Right. Finally, Gough, Henry, Anne, do you want to say anything more? If not, I'm going to say goodnight to Gough, Henry, and Anne. Good night. It's been a blast.
God bless.
Night, Gough. Night, Henry.
Good night. Did you want me to send you some more pictures of Herculaneum?
Fucking hell. I don't know what Anne was on tonight, but Gough definitely give his money worth. I think Gough should get a rebate for that. That was great.
I'm surprised he didn't ask for his money back.
I'm surprised he didn't pay me more. But it's the first time Goff has said something at the end, and we've got, and I thought that's good revenge for Anne. That was.
As I say, do you want me to send you some more pictures of
Yeah,
Herculaneum?
I would. Do you know one thing? One thing that really gets my goat is like it's like I ask somebody to send me like 1 or 2 images and I get 50, right? So but when you've sent me images, you may have taken 100 and you've sent me 5 or 6, and I thought that's really good because you've only sent me the 5 or 6 which are the decent ones. But if you've got some really great ones of Herculaneum that actually tell a story that I can tell a story from, rather than a slideshow, or by the way, this is a wall, this is a door, right?
I've got a laundry press,
Yeah, that ideal.
which is made out of wood, and it survived.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. No, I've seen images of that. It's like it's
down. It screws down and
yeah, it screws
presses.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a good picture of that as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. That one. That really is amazing. It really is. So it would be good to see that. Yeah.
And I think Herculaneum was about 30 meters down.
It was deep. Yeah.
So how on earth they dug it out? Also, they've got a very large tunnel which goes under the houses because it's surrounded by houses.
Yeah.
Now, when we went, they'd stopped because it was post-COVID. They weren't actually going in. So
right.
I don't know what they've found
Yeah.
since. But they had basically like a massive tunnel that they were digging underneath all the houses.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Well, you got a photograph of that?
No, I haven't. I've got a distant photograph. It's not really worth much, but
No.
they've obviously doing something, or they were doing something underneath all the houses around because they couldn't remove the houses.
Yeah.
To excavate.
Yeah.
So they were actually literally digging under them, like mining their way through.
No, that sounds absolutely brilliant. That really does.
Right.
Yeah, anything like that.
Okay, I'll have a little look and pop you a few shots.
Yeah, I'll be good because
And
as you can see, we did a lot from what we had tonight. So it's all of this does tell a story which you can't really get off anywhere. And this is the thing, people say, oh, you got all these images on the internet. You haven't. They're just not there. It's just that I've struggled when I've done my little Roman series. I've struggled to get stuff, and when I'm writing my column for the Baron District News every week, most of the stuff I can't find, so I've got to go out and take the photographs myself, which is naturally what I do. But this is the point. This thing that there's everything that you need on the internet is just overplayed. It really is.
Well, I'll send you a few across and see what you think.
Brilliant. I'd love to use them. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll even send you the one of the cheeses, but near the in Rome as well, because I've got those.
I tell you what, if you've got a photograph of that, we'll start off with that next week and see what Anne says.
I've got no washing machine photographs. You'll be pleased to hear.
Oh, I can remember we did that in bloody COVID. She would talk about the washing machine for like 10 minutes.
Right.
Okay. I will. What?
I was going to say adios and have a good week.
Or as the people in Pompeii would say, have.
And the wine is very nice out there as well. But anyway, let's not go there.
Yeah, you're going to have a choice of wine, but it's going to be mainly red, isn't it?
You can get whites as well.
Yeah.
And chicken on a rotisserie is very nice, but you wouldn't have that.
No, I wouldn't, but there's a vegetarian version of it somewhere. do you know what I'm finding, right? Is that this is another myth. It's like, yeah, there's lots more vegetarians out there, right? There's a co-op in Barry, right? I went in there the other day. I said, can I have a vegetarian pasty? They said we don't stock anything like that anymore because there's no call for them. And it's not the only place. There's another place in West Wales. I thought, all right, we don't do any vegetarian stuff anymore because nobody buys it. I'm thinking, all right, okay, fair enough. So I'm still in a minority then, yeah.
I'll leave you with that one. Right.
A good pasta bolognese. Yes.
Yes.
Leave it.
Right.
All right then. I'll see you soon. Thanks for
Yep.
that, and I'll see you next week.
It'll be in the next couple of days. I'll send some over.
Please do. That'll be great. It's
All right.
good format. Take care.
Bye-bye.
No. Bye bye. Bye. So thanks everybody for joining us tonight. If you were there's no comments online. Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr i chi, gwelwch chi eto. Thank you very much. Night, guys. Thank you very much. Night. Okay, look in there. Nothing in there. Okay, nothing in that chat box 1. Nothing there 2. Nothing in that chat box 3. Nothing in that chat box 4, 5, 6, 7. Nothing in that chat box 8, 9, 10. Nothing there 11, 12, 13. And nothing in that window 1, 2, 3, 4.